Using the Boolean operations under the Edit NURBS menu, you can take two or more objects and combine them to form a variety of different effects in which you take one object and use it to affect another. You could use one object to carve a hole out of another object by using a difference. You can take two objects and kind of merge them together into a single object, such as union. Or you could just save the two-part where two objects pass through each other through an intersect. Let me go ahead and kind of show you a real quick example of how this works. I'm going to create a sphere, and I'll duplicate it, and we'll move the duplicate up and off to the side like so. So you can see these two spheres are passing through one another. Now take a good look at the wireframe. You can still see the wires where each of these two objects are passing through each other. Now what I'm going to do is go to Edit NURBS Booleans, and we have the Union tool, the Subtract tool, and the Intersect tool. We'll start off with the Union tool, and I'll open up my tool settings, which are floating right here. I'll talk about these here in just a minute. Look at your help line. It's going to actually tell you how to use this tool. It says select one or more NURB surfaces to form the first object. We'll start with this sphere, and we'll press Enter to select the second object. Click here, and we're done. Now what just happened? We now have a single NURBS object. If I press the 4 key, notice that those internal wires are now gone. We have made a union of these two surfaces. They are now joined to one another. Very, very cool. But something else happened kind of behind the scenes, though fairly obvious if you're paying really close attention to your wireframe. You have just created a trim surface. You can come over here and select the trim edge and actually prove it. What the Boolean operations are going to do inside of Maya is create a series of trims that will create the look of a Boolean operation. Now they have a few options. You can choose to delete the inputs that you have. For example, like right now I have the actual inputs still for the sphere, so I can move them around. If I go under Window, open up the outliner, I still have like NURB Sphere 3 in this case that I can move around. And notice how this affects my Boolean operation. And in certain areas I can actually get errors, so you have to kind of watch out for that. And as soon as they're no longer touching, we actually have an error. But if you wanted this kind of control to be able to move the original input nodes around, then you'd want to leave delete input switched off. You can also tell Maya whether or not you want to exit the tool on completion, or simply select the hierarchy, which is the default setting. So that's a look at how Union is going to work, and you can actually do this yourself. If you wanted to create a sphere, duplicate it, do the exact same thing I did. Here's actually how to create that exact same shape without having to resort to a Boolean. We can select these two objects, go to Edit NURBS, intersect the two. We'll grab our Trim tool. Let's make sure we're set to Keep. And we'll keep this side of this sphere, press Enter. Keep this side of this sphere, and we have the exact same shape. The Boolean operation, however, is going to form a hierarchy out of these two pieces first. So that's one of the really important things to do. That will create the same shape, but the behavior is going to be different. For example, notice in this case where I use the Trim tool, if I were to grab one of the spheres and move them, that trim is going to respond in kind because I still have some construction history there. Whereas if I were to create my Boolean operation, even though I am actually using, the Boolean operation is using trims. Just go ahead and close that. I don't really need it open. Notice now I can select individual pieces, and when I move them, we just have that hole in the middle. So the shape is there, but the behavior is going to be different. Now there's two other forms of Boolean operation that you can perform. Let me just go ahead and undo back until these are both plain Jane regular NURB spheres. We'll go back down to Edit NURBS Booleans. Let's take a look at the Subtract tool. Notice the settings are exactly the same, so whether or not you want to delete those original input nodes, and all of these Boolean operations are going to have the exact same settings. And once again, we select the first NURB surface, press Enter, select the second surface, and there you go. Now in this case, it looks like I have made a union. Let's just go ahead and I'll switch the thing here in the node. You can actually switch this over to Subtract, like so. So notice I've actually made a sphere-shaped concavity in the side of this sphere. Now let me go ahead and create a new sphere. I'm going to scale it up. Let's dupe it, move it over. It's a nice example. You move it over just a little bit, make a Death Star. And George Lucas's lawyers come knocking immediately. Let's come over and grab the subtract tool again. I'll just click on one, enter, click on the other, and there we go. So there's subtract, actually at the tool level. But of course you can change this over in your Boolean node. So I can switch this over to intersect, and what this has done is this has only kept the shape where the two objects were passing through each other. So two little semi-spheres pressed together to form sort of a flying saucer kind of look. That's really all there is to the Boolean operations here inside of Maya. Very, very handy for creating fast trim surfaces with cool behavior, so you can separate them out if you need to. And that'll wrap things up for this video. Thanks a lot.